Welcome to the question and answer video with the President and the National Secretary of the Scottish Amateur FA. This video is to help assist our member leagues, associations and clubs as we move out of lockdown. Thank you all to the leagues and the associations for sending in the questions. As you can imagine, the majority of these questions were very similar to each other. So we've constructed the following questions which we feel best answer all of the inquiries.
Good morning, everybody, or afternoon, depending on when you're watching this. Thanks, Stuart. Start with the big question that everybody wants to know. Put me behind the 8 ball right away. But unfortunately, the honest answer to this is nobody knows for sure. As you'll have gathered, all decisions have been made on this by the Scottish Government. They're telling us what we're permitted to do as we go forward. And we don't get any prior warning of their announcements they're about to make. And as you've all seen, if you've been listening to them, they're very, very vague. So what we've been doing is through the Scottish FA Joint Response Group, we have been getting these announcements, trying to get more information on them, and then turn them into a football context to issue as a joint response statement. So today what you're really going to get is what Stuart and I will consider our best guess at what's going to happen as we move forward. One example I would give of that is the announcement last week, which was very positive. But a week later, we're still trying to find out for the Scottish Government, never mind what's permitted. We know it's not games and we know it's some kind of social bubble contact training of some description for the children and young people. We still don't know what young people actually means. We've asked the government, is it 16, 18, 21, 25? And they still haven't come back to us with the answer to that. So that let you realise how difficult it is that to put the messaging out. We have to get the messaging correct from the government before we can even put it out there. So it does take time. If you'd asked me this question a few weeks back, I would probably have said matches will be 2021. But this announcement on the children and young people with the conditional contact training has made, and also the progression with the virus has made the Scottish Government's actions are careful, but they are working. So we are more hopeful of things as we're moving forward. To answer the question, in my opinion, I would say in terms of matches, I'm far more hopeful that towards the end of 2020, we'll get some matches. As for training, well, I'm hopeful of getting what we would call social distance training, possibly this month, and then hopefully some kind of contact training, again, probably in a social bubble of some description, maybe in a month or so. But as I say, these are all just based on what I think may happen going forward. However, without sounding like a party political broadcast, it is vital, really vital, that we all follow the government's restrictions and the medical advice on the pandemic, because make no mistake, every breach of these restrictions, whether it be large gatherings down a public park or our teams going for unauthorised training, as we're well aware some of them are doing, does indirectly affect the return of football for everyone, because it makes our conversations with the Scottish Government more difficult. So we would suggest that if you're thinking about training at this time, please don't.
Hi everybody. Before I start, it's quite a detailed answer, I'm afraid, but I apologise for the Captain Birdseye look, but I've decided that I'm not going to shave till we get back playing football again. So my wife was hoping that Thomas was going to have even more up-to-date news that I could shave. But anyway, getting back to the question, it's a question in terms of finance. We're obviously asked often about that sort of subject. Before I get to the crux of this question, can I point out a couple of general things in the association's finance, which I hope will give all of you about where we are with and where the SAFA stands on money matters within the association. We're often encouraged by our member clubs and their representatives to refund what they term extra cash at the end of the financial year, which on the face of it seemed a good idea. But when you break this down, if we were to refund even as little as £10 per club, this would cost the association upwards of £10,000. And to be honest, clubs would not get much a tenner paid back to them nowadays. So we don't think this is a responsible way on the association's part. Another thing often thrown at us is what is commonly known as our emergency fund. That is what has been a long-standing figure of to around £200 in the funds at the end of each financial year, and indeed throughout the year. We're often asked why we need such an amount of cash in the bank and why it's not used to help our member clubs. Well, we have, and I imagine we'll continue to have such a reserve fund for contingencies such as the current pandemic, which the world found itself in over the last few months, and possibly for some time to come. I would ask all our members to realise that since we've been gripped in the COVID-19 virus and had to go into lockdown, the association, in common with many other businesses, has still had outgoings, although we've had no incoming cash. And we have looked at the whole situation, and this virus causing, for example, 12 months without football, it would put us in a scenario which we've calculated with the cost of the association would probably be in excess of £100,000. Without the emergency fund, the Scottish Amateur FA would most likely have to borrow to stay in business, or worse still, cease to exist. So I hope this, in the first instance, gives you a little insight on why we need such funds in place. Now, to move on to the question asked, I would add the following points which I feel extremely important, and as we're outlining the documents which the National Secretary sent out over the last few months. As far as reducing affiliation fees is concerned, we would normally have been taking in affiliation fees for season 2021, but instead we've extended membership of the SAFA until such time as we can play competitive football again, at no additional cost to the clubs, of course. This means all clubs are enjoying additional months of membership at no cost whatsoever. We're also committed to looking at affiliation fees for the new season when we know exactly when we can get started playing again. And further, we'll seriously consider reduced rates on affiliation once we know, or at least have a better idea on a restart date. As for any rebate on affiliation fees, I'd refer back to my opening points on returning cash to clubs. Moving on to sports card costs, we've already negotiated and agreed with SportsGuard that public liability insurance due as at the end of July will be extended until competitive football restarts, which avoids a break in cover, which is very important for any future claims. Due to rules within the FCA and insurance underwriters, the same cannot be actioned in personal accident insurance, and this will cease at 30th of June and will not be required for renewal until competitive football returns again. I would point out to member clubs that should you start training at any point prior to competitive football resumption, then you should consider taking out PAI for training cover. It covers any mishaps during that time. And if you contact SportsGuard, I'm sure you'll be offered a competitive rate for short-term cover. You should also remember that when we do start playing again, these insurances are mandatory under the SAFA Constitution. When we eventually get back to playing again, and we will, then SportsGuard have agreed to offer competitive pricing for the new season at discounted rates. The discounted rate will be negotiated when football gets a go-ahead from the Scottish Government. Therefore, at this point, I'm unable to give a definitive value of the discount to our members until we have a date for competitive football to resume. As I'm sure you'll no doubt be aware, a lot of detail is impossible to gauge until we have confirmation from the Scottish Government and the Scottish FA what date competitive football at recreational level can resume. But we'll do our utmost to keep you all up to speed with developments on that subject and advise you appropriately as soon as we have information required. I hope that at least gives some information. It makes it clear to some extent anyway, and that you understand we are undertaking these steps to help all our member clubs avoid as much expenditure at this time.
It's almost certain that when training does return, it will not be as we all remember it. Team training will commence, no doubt, in a social distance environment, and I'm sure none of us have ever heard of social distance training 6 months ago. But the restrictions and numbers will have to be taken into account as well. But we just don't know the exact details yet, and we won't know until the government announces what the measurements are to allow training to happen. Currently, we're in what we're calling the plan and prepare stage, and you'll find a lot of the information has been put up on the Scottish FA website on what we're calling the Return to Football Hub. And what I would say to any teams and anybody at all in the amateur game is, if you haven't looked there, please go ahead and look. There's a lot of writing in there, but there's a lot of good information in there. So I would encourage everybody to go and have a look at the Return to Football Hub. Going forward, for when the later announcements are made and for training and hopefully in-time matches, as I say, we simply don't know what measures will be expected. But they'll be in line with whatever measures in society at the time. And they'll cover things like face coverings, social distancing, personal hygiene, travelling individually to matches, and restrictions in changing rooms. All these things will be taken into account, and it'll be a combination of these things as we move forward. Hopefully these will lessen, but there'll be a combination of these things brought into place. However, what I would say is, quite simply, we're left with two options. One, we either follow what the government say to allow training and matches to come back, or two, we simply hibernate until a vaccine's found. And I'm sure, like me, you'd rather get back on the pitch as quick as possible. So they're the two options we'll have.
Yeah, thanks, Stuart. In general, this is another one of these questions that if we knew the answer, we would be winning the lottery. But I have to say that in national and district competitions in general, will be subject to discussion with the Exec and Finance Committee. But it's difficult to discuss it in any depth until we have a restart date, because we, like everybody else in football at the moment, or certainly recreational football at the moment, have no clue at this point when we can start again. So we need to see when that is, how many fixture dates we've got, etc. And obviously, once we've got that information, the season will be arranged around about those dates. For example, a late 2020 start really means that we've got to take into consideration things like what's happening in Leicester at the moment. Should there be a localised lockdown, which could occur, hopefully not, but it could occur. That would need to be taken into consideration. Therefore, I guess my advice to member leagues and associations is to consider very, very carefully their own local league and cup competitions and try to build flexibility where possible to allow a reduction of games if necessary, and be in a position to add or indeed remove cup competitions as required. At the SFA, we've got to carry out the same appraisal based on that start date, as it may not be possible for us to run national and district competitions on top of your league's domestic programmes. However, we do hope to complete the 2019-20 national and district cup competitions if that is at all possible. But again, we will have to assess that when we know when we can go back to competitive football. Just talking briefly about the 2019-20 national cups and district cups, I just want to take this opportunity to confirm, for sake of any doubt, that if we are in a position to continue with those competitions, and in terms of registered players, normal rules would apply. That, of course, means that players registered in 2019-20 and already played for a cup in the competitions, albeit it could be 3 or 4 months ago, they would still be cup tied and therefore couldn't turn out for a different club in these competitions. Clearly, all of what I've said and outlined will need to be fully considered and confirmed and put into place when we finally get the green light on starting to play again.
I mean, this question is very similar to the first question, and if you'd asked me a few weeks ago, I would have said probably not in 2020. More matches will be back in 2021. However, as I said earlier, with the recent announcement, it's given the possibility of something happening late 2020. So that there obviously is a chance that we could get something squeezed in for the summer season. It will, of course, be more difficult for our northerly lying leagues, but we could, if required, adjust the closing date for summer registrations to allow them to squeeze something in. Possibly, as an example, a sectional league cup might be possible later on in the year, and we try and squeeze that in for them if we can. It's hard to work out a game without knowing the restart date, but I would be delighted to have conversations with these summer leagues if we were talking about the possibility of playing matches, because it was the leagues themselves would know what was possible to have and the time frame would be allowed when we get the go-ahead. Unfortunately, the one definite loss will be the Highland Armchair Cup, because even if we got the go-ahead tomorrow to play matches, we would struggle to get the Highland Armchair Cup in for this season. So I anticipate at the next Executive and Finance meeting, they'll have to officially make that decision that the Highland Armchair Cup will not be played in season 2020. Yeah, futsal. Unfortunately, futsal, with it being an indoor sport, it could be even longer before it's allowed to come back. It's been made clear by the medical people that the virus is more dangerous indoors than it is outside. Therefore, at this stage, as I say, like everything else, with no definite information of when futsal will be permitted by the Scottish Government. But in my opinion, with what I know about the virus, it will be after the outdoor sports come back. However, like everything else, this could change as we move forward. And if the virus remains suppressed and no longer becomes a threat in society, the government may bring it back sooner than we anticipate. And like everything else, we'll simply have to listen to the government announcements. I would anticipate the possibility of indoor social distance training coming online before the actual contact matches. But that will be, for me, being an indoor sport, that's me a bit far away at the moment yet. So I just don't know.
I'm really pleased that this question was asked to allow me, again, as I pointed out in a statement a few weeks ago, how proud I am that a large number of our member clubs have taken it upon themselves to help within their own communities. And I'm sure I speak for all the executive committee, have total respect for those involved during lockdown, although I know this goes on throughout the year and not simply when there is something of a crisis in our hands. The help and the assistance offered by the clubs proves, if proof were needed, the importance of amateur clubs and football within the communities. And indeed, I'm sure there's much more done than I and my colleagues are aware of. So again, a huge well done. Personally, I admit to being humbled by the work that the member clubs have carried out, in particular to the vulnerable, or for the vulnerable in our society. And our clubs deserve massive praise for their efforts, not only during the last few months, but continuously, year in, year out. And I was delighted to hear that at least one of our clubs, although I'm sure there are many more, Glenburn Miners Welfare, have been acknowledged and were awarded with the Provost's Club Recognition Award at a recent South Ayrshire Sports Award ceremony. And so on behalf of the SAFA, I offer huge congratulations to them and to all of the clubs involved in such important work within their communities and beyond. In closing, I thought I'd let you know that I've just completed a mental health and Scottish football course. And throughout this course, it outlines the importance of football within our communities. I think what our member clubs up and down the country have done confirms this. We should all be proud to be part of the Scottish amateur football that plays in the health and well-being of our folk, the length and breadth of the country. So I congratulate you all again, urge you to keep up the good work, in the hope that we'll all, sooner rather than be later, be back playing the game we all love.
Thank you to the President and the National Secretary for answering these questions, and thank you all for watching. Should you have any other inquiries or you feel your question was not answered, then do not hesitate to get back in contact with us with the email address below, safa@scottish-football.com. And on behalf of all at the Scottish Amateur FA, stay safe everyone.